Welcome back. I'm Rose Martin, and this is Real Life with Susan Harf, our very favorite life coach. Like you, I can't wait to hear what's on her mind today. Hi, Susan.
Hi, Rose. I'm happy to see you, and I'm so glad you decided to join us as well. Today, we're talking about the fact that we all have a big goal. We all have something that we want to accomplish, and some people achieve those goals and some people don't. And we're going to talk today about how to do that, how to get it done.
And I'm thinking some of us have several goals in several different arenas of our life because we're going at different paces in our life. So whether it's family, it's your house or your yard or your personal body or your career achievements, right?
Yeah.
And you're going to cover them all.
Well,
here we go.
It's true that we all have various things that we want to work on and various goals that we have. And I guess what I believe is that if you have a really big dream, if you've got a goal that you've been thinking about forever and you really want it, you want to have this thing come true, then I believe it's important to focus on that and only that. That's not to say that you're not going to keep going to your job, you're not going to keep parenting your children, you're not going to continue to be married if you're married. I'm saying if you're really striving to get to the next step of something or make something happen, I believe it's not possible to do that in many arenas at once.
So not to juggle everything at
Yeah,
one time.
I don't think it's possible.
So how do you feel then about people who just want to manifest it? It's kind of like a little hocus pocus. Like, I'm going to manifest this and it's going to happen.
I think it's exactly that, hocus pocus.
Okay.
I talk with too many people all day long about their dreams and about their goals and things they want to change to believe that all you got to do is stand in front of the mirror and say,
I want it.
Let's make it happen, and it's going to happen. It's not going to happen that way. I do think that if you have a positive attitude toward it, I think if you believe in yourself, I think if you have self-confidence about the fact that you can do it, those things will all help you go through the process of trying to get it. But that's because it's not easy to get what you want, and particularly if it's a big goal or a big dream, and especially if you haven't done anything like that before. All of those things are possible to achieve, but not necessarily are they going to happen by snapping your fingers.
So you're saying, people, get this message. You want something to happen, it can really happen.
Yeah.
But you've got to do the work.
That's right.
And there are action steps in order to make that happen.
That's right. And the other thing, Rose, is I can't stress enough, you got to want it really bad.
And not to fall off if things go wrong.
There will be things that go wrong.
Yeah.
There will be times when you take a step and it doesn't go the way you wanted. Definitely, you'll be afraid sometimes. People tell me that every day, all day, they're afraid to take the next step. All of that is part of getting what you want, but you have to really want it bad.
Is there a system, like several steps that we should follow?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, there is, Rose. I just happen to know some.
Good.
Okay, so I had a dream. And I was I'm a MSW, Master of Social Work. I had a private practice, and my clients were telling me what their issues were, and I realized that I can listen to people's issues in the confines of my practice alone, with them and me in the room, and I can give them suggestions as a coach. As a therapist, listen to the past and all of that. But as I began working with more and more people, I realized there are some themes that we all share. And I started thinking, I wish there was a way that I could still hold to confidentiality, which is a very, very big value of every therapist and every coach. Mm-hmm. I wish I could deal with, I could have confidentiality, but somehow get these people together. Like, that person that I saw Monday night really needs to hear the story of the person I saw Thursday morning. How can I make that happen? And I started ruminating about that. And I thought about it a long time. And I decided that I wanted to provide a forum for people to hear each other's stories. And that was the beginning of my foray into the media. And this happened in the 90s. I had been working as a therapist and a coach since all of the 80s. So after 10 years of listening to and meeting with folks is when I started thinking about providing a forum for them to hear each other's stories. So that was my impetus. And the first thing that I recommend when you have a dream like that is tell people. Tell people, hey, you know what? I've been thinking of something. This might sound crazy, but what would you think about me having a talk show? What comes to your mind when I say that to you?
What does saying out loud do for the person who says it or for the people who are hearing it?
Good question. What it does for you is it gives you the opportunity to get used to saying it and thinking about it. What it also does is it allows you, when you say it to someone else, to get feedback from them. And feedback comes in all forms. Feedback can come from them saying, I could definitely picture you doing that, to saying, hey, I think I can help you do that, to I've got somebody that you need to know because they can give you advice about that. Feedback comes in all different forms, and all of those things happened to me when I started telling people I want to have a show. And I wasn't even sure what format or what form that show should take. And the first show that I had ended up being on radio. But one of the things that happened when I told people, what do you think about this idea? Can you see me having a talk show? And a person that I knew, the way that, and by the way, I suggest you say that to people who know you from all different walks of life. People who know you as a babysitter, people who know you as an adult, people who knew you as a child, people who are your coworkers, people who you're friends with, people who you met on your child's playground at the school, people who know you from all different walks of life, people who you volunteer with. Say it to a lot of different people who know you in a lot of different ways. And when I did that, one of those people was somebody who hired me to teach workshops in the Women's Center of one of the hospitals. And she said, I got a book for you to read. And I read this book, and I want to share the book with you. It's called Wishcraft: How to Get What You Really Want. And Wishcraft is a book that talks about how to make your dreams come true. And I did every single thing that this woman who wrote the book, Barbara Scher, told me to do.
Did you ever reach out to Barbara to let her know you had followed her advice?
Well, one of the things Barbara Scher talks about that I speak about with my clients is operationalizing your goals. And what we mean by that is, how are you going to know when you got it? If you say, let's say your goal is, I want to be home for dinner, because I'm never home for dinner. I travel sometimes, and this is what someone said to me. They said, I travel sometimes, I want to be home more for dinner. That's my goal. I'm coming to you as a coach to help me get there. And by the way, coaches can help with all of these issues. So he said that to me, and I said, well, okay, you want to be home more. So if you're home 2 nights a week, would that do it? He said, no, I want to be home more than that. We had to operationalize the goal for him. So he wanted to, what we decided was, if you're home 5 nights a week, does that mean you're home more? Yes. That would mean that I am home with my family. So the goal was not to have him be home more. The goal was for him to have dinner with his family 5 nights a week. And when he isn't in the same town, he's on the Zoom with them.
So it was more clearly defined and
Yes.
not as generalized. What
Exactly.
happens if you're in the middle of this and you've already told everybody what you're going to do and you're working your way through it and you decide, you know, I really don't want to do this anymore?
That may happen, and that's one of the things that happens when you begin to operationalize your goals. But speaking of operationalizing them, you asked me, did I reach out to Barbara Scher? So one of the ways that I was going to operationalize my goal, one of the ways that I would know that I reached my goal, is if I were to say to my listenership, guess what, guys? Today I'm going to interview somebody that I have dreamed of interviewing. And the reason I dreamed about this is because I knew that when I said these words to you, today my guest is Barbara Scher, then I would know that I reached my goal. And the day I said to my listeners, today I'm very, very excited about my guest. My guest is Barbara Scher. And I started dreaming about these words that I just said to you. My guest today is Barbara Scher. I started dreaming this about 10 years ago. That's how long it took me to get to the first step. So Yes, I did reach out to her. Yes, it does absolutely make a difference when you operationalize your goal, because that's how you know you reached it. And sometimes all the time there are mini goals. And being able to say, folks, today my guest is Barbara Sher, was a mini goal, because my real goal was to provide a forum for people, do what I do on television, because I thought it would be more helpful for people to be able to see guests and to see me. And so that was my ultimate goal. But I started in radio because I started for two reasons in radio. One, I didn't know all that I didn't know, and that describes everyone who's trying to reach a goal. There's so much you don't know. There's so much you don't know about what you're trying to achieve, about the arena you're trying to achieve it in, and all of that is absolutely okay. It's okay that I didn't know what I was doing. I really didn't. I did not know that radio was its own career. I didn't know all that I didn't know about radio.
And I'm hearing that maybe you have to celebrate along the way, and you don't need to be shy about self-promotion.
Absolutely.
To be like, hey, I want to do this, and I'm going to do it, and I'm going to put myself out there, and here's where I'm going, and here's how I'm going to get there.
Absolutely.
And I hope you're on board. But what about the naysayers? The person who is really close in your circle, and they're like, it sounds amazing, but I think it's a little big, and I really think you'd be better at choosing something else.
Couple things about that. Number one, plan on that. Plan on hearing that, what Rose just said. Plan on the fact that you're going to hear no. Now, my naysayer did not come from anybody that I asked in my inner circle. My first naysayer, I had many. One of the naysayers that I had was somebody who, at the very beginning, before I had reached any part of the goal, I was working on the mini goal of calling up people in radio and television who could help me achieve the goal. And someone that I called did not take my call for a very long time, and finally he did. And he said, you know what, I'm going to agree to have lunch with you. And this happened to be the station manager of the CBS affiliate in Rochester, where I was from. And we had lunch together. And he said, I have a goal right now. He said, you want to know what my goal is? I said, yeah, what is it? He said, my goal is to help you not waste your time for the next 20 years. He said, you will never, ever have a talk show. And I said, why is that? He said, and he gave me all the reasons, because local talk shows are not usually produced locally, and they're produced in syndication, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. He gave me all the reasons why it wasn't going to happen. And I said, what about if I try radio? And he said, that's not going to happen either. He said, you have no experience in radio. You have experience doing what you're doing. Keep your day job. And what was worse is I found out that he took the call from me because he knew someone that had been a client of mine. So he thought, the whole thing was he thought he was doing me a favor. And I want to tell you what I did. I reached over the table and I said to him, thank you, because you have no idea how much motivation you just gave me.
Right.
And I promise you, I will do it. If it's the last thing I do, I will provide a forum to have people tell their stories, and I'll be right there. And I said, here's what I'm going to ask of you. If you ever see me out in the community and I got a show, you don't even need to come up to me. I just want you to go, I want you to recognize me. And
did you ever run into him again?
I absolutely did, Rose. And that was one of the steps. Mm-hmm. One of my steps that I wrote down was someday be able to say to Arnold, that was his name, I won't tell you his last name, be able to, but believe me, I know it, I remember it.
And Arnold probably knows it too, yeah.
Be able to say to Arnold, hi Arnold, have you watched me?
Yeah.
And so here's the thing. You bring up a good point, a couple of good points here about, number one, operationalizing the goal. Number two, the mini goals. We need to invest a lot of time in planning this out. And the way you plan it out is you're not going to know all the goals. You're not going to know all the steps you need to take. But at the very beginning, plan out the steps that you do know about. And so the steps have to be tiny. So for instance, in my case, the steps were today I'm going to make a phone call. Tomorrow I'm going to make another phone call. Sometimes I had to read a book before I made the phone call. Other times I had to talk to myself before I made the phone call.
So this is like a strategic plan for your life.
Exactly.
With the goals that are actionable.
Exactly. And
results.
plan on people saying no. Plan on it. Now, my biggest naysayer was not Arnold. My biggest naysayer was I got to the point where I was making the phone calls, and first of all, sometimes you're finding out who to make the phone calls to. Those are steps. Find out who to make the phone calls of. I was trying to talk to, at one point, the director of radio for NPR. Well, he had a gatekeeper. That was his admin. And every day I called her. There's a talk that I give called 365 Days of No. That is how many times I called her.
Every day.
I called her every day, including the weekends. I left her a message. And I would
hey, this is Susan again. It's 4:30.
That's right. This is how the conversation would go. Hi, it's me. Hi, me. I know what you're calling about, and you can't talk to him. And I would say, how come I can't talk to him? And finally, one day, she said to me, you can't talk to him because he's busy, but you know what? You think you've got something new to tell me every day, but I know everything that there is to know about you. I said, you don't. You think you know everything about me, but you don't. I said, you don't know that I make the best chocolate chip cookies in the whole city. What do I got to do, bring them to you? And she said, yeah, maybe. But I'll tell you what, I'll give you 5 minutes with him.
Persistence and cookies.
And I had 5 minutes with him that day. So my point is there's a lot of naysayers. There's a lot of no's. And all you got to do is you got to want it bad. And you know what? The other thing that you need to keep in mind is that you don't have to have a reason for why you want it. I happen to have had a reason. My reason is I'm seeing all of these people who could give so much to each other, because how I started was a talk show where I interviewed other people who had an issue. And when they would share their issue, our listeners would hear about the issue and be able to think about their issues in a different way. So things evolved over time. But my point is you don't have to have a reason. I have many clients who have dreams and goals, and I don't need to know why they want that goal. So here's an example. I have 3 clients who told me at different times, and I didn't have them all at once. This happened over a period of 30 years. I've had 3 clients whose goal was to be on Broadway. That's what they wanted. They wanted me to help them get on Broadway. Okay. So they said, you know how to help them reach their goal? That's my goal. The first woman wanted to be on Broadway, but she really didn't know what she wanted about that. And that's called the touchstone, is we need to figure out why, not why we want it, but what we want out of it.
Like if you want to be a dancer, or you want to be a set designer, or you
even more sort of esoteric. She wanted to be on Broadway, but what she really wanted to be was the star. She wanted to lead. She wanted to be the leader. So I said to her, does it have to be on Broadway? What if you were in the local playhouse? We have a really great playhouse in this city. What about if you were the lead in that playhouse? Would that do it, or does it have to be Broadway? And she thought about it and she said, you know what? No, it doesn't have to be Broadway. I could be the lead in that. Okay, so we started taking steps for her. She took some acting classes. She started talking to people. There were many, many steps we took. But the night that she was in the play that she starred in, and that was not how, believe me, that was after she was in many, many, many other plays. I was in the front row center watching her that night. Okay, so she did it. But we had to identify what is the touchstone. Somebody else told me they wanted to be on Broadway, and I said, does it have to be Broadway? And she said, I have to be the one. I said, okay. Let me ask you this question. Could you be the one? Does it have to be only Broadway? Well, what else is there? I said, what if you owned your own company? Or what if you were the manager of a company? And people reported to me, yes. Okay, that's good enough. I really do want to be the head person. She's very interested in makeup. That had nothing to do with Broadway. She has a makeup company now. And it's franchised. She's gone very well with her dream. But the point is, you know what she loves best about it? She likes being the CEO. That is what she wanted. Okay, I have a third person who wanted to be on Broadway. And I said, okay, let's talk about this. Why Broadway? And she said, I want to be the star. Same thing. And I said, tell me more about your life. Because I had this nagging sense that that was not it. And what we found out about her is she wasn't starring in her own life. So if you were to say to her, here's a cheese board, and we have 10 different kinds of cheese, what do you want? She'd say, anything is good. Well, it's really not all the same. They taste very different. Well, I don't know. And the reason she didn't know is she never stopped to think about what she wanted. So she wanted to be the star, but that was a leap into, I really want to be starring in my own life. She wasn't able to articulate that, but together we found out that that was the issue.
Why do people do that? Choose something which may be unrelated to what they really, really want to do? Is it really just what that other job represents, and that's how they assimilate it?
It's the touchstone that matters. And too often people feel guilty for that. They feel like, I don't have that sounds so self-absorbed. I want to be the star. What kind of a thing is that to say to somebody? And what I say to clients, no matter what their goal is, I'm not going to judge your goal, and it's not up to me to decide whether or not I think that that's an admirable goal. And something else I've said to people is they need to spend time, and sometimes they do it with me, sometimes other ways. They need to spend time doing what you're suggesting, figuring out what is the touchstone, what is the why, why do you want that goal? Rose, another dream that I had, and I may have told you about this, is during COVID, I wrote a story, and I wanted to, I thought, publish this book. And I talked to someone about that. This person happened to be a literary agent. And he did some coaching with me, and he said to me, what about writing this book was your impetus? Why did you do this? The story is about me and my grandchildren. And I said, I've always wanted to write, and I've written other things. I've written things in my field, but I wanted to write this story. And he said, so when you picture having this book published, which is what you say you want, do you picture being at Barnes & Noble writing in the book? I said, oh no. He said, do you picture being on a publicity talking tour with your book? I said, no, not at all. He said, what do you picture? I said, I picture getting through the pandemic and he said, what's the vision in your mind? I said, the vision is me handing the book to my grandchildren, because that would signify to me that I made it. I made it during COVID. I lived during COVID, and I lived to see them again, because we didn't see my grandchildren for over a year. Thank God for FaceTime, rather. So that was my vision. And you know what the literary agent said to me? He said, write the story. And because I wasn't having any luck publishing the book. He said, write the story and give it to your grandchildren. How would that make you feel? I'm a crybaby. I started crying. I said, that's exactly what I want. I want to give them this book. I'm not writing this book for anyone else. It's for them. It's for me and them.
And did you give it to them?
I gave it to them, and it was my dream come true that moment, because that signified I lived through COVID. My vision became a reality, and that is what I ask people to think about. Don't judge yourself for having a vision. Don't judge yourself for wanting a goal, even if it's a very big goal. There's only one thing that I can think of that I didn't need to tell anybody they couldn't accomplish, because it's obvious. If you have a baby and the baby is out right in front of you, here's the baby, you're holding the baby, you can't put the baby back.
Right.
You can't put the baby back. That is something we know, okay? Aside from that, and you can't have a baby if you're 95 years old, but you can do almost anything else. And so what I tell people is, do not judge your goal. Take the time to think about what it is and what's the touchstone of it. What is it about that goal that really gets you going?
And don't think it's too late.
And it's never.
Or you're too old.
Rose, I have a 75-year-old client who learned how to ice skate. I have a 95-year-old father-in-law who leads current affairs workshops where he lives. I know people who are elderly, who do things that other people said, no, that's impossible.
And look at you, you have a show.
I know, and I'm with you, Rose, that's right. And I know younger people who have done amazing, amazing work. at their young age. So yes, you can. You got to have one thing. You got to want it bad. And you got to be willing to do what it takes to get it. And if you are, you absolutely can achieve that goal.
And I think that is so inspiring because it's getting you from thinking within. You be persistent, you have to really want it, you put your heart and everything into it. But I love what you said about, don't be shy about what it is you want, or don't feel judgmental, or, I'm going to be too snooty if I say I want to do that.
Exactly.
People are going to judge me for it.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't. So I want to say two things at the end here. Number one, hi, Arnold. Number two, Number two, if you've got something that you want to speak to me about, please get in touch with me. You'll have we're going to show you my email address here at the station. I'd love to hear from you, even if it's about a show topic that you're thinking about. When people suggest topics to me, we always do them. So yes, get in touch.
So that's great. And realize that that's a goal of yours. Absolutely do it right now. And for Real Life and Susan Harsh, thanks for watching, and do reach out to us, all right? Thanks, everybody.